Meta AI is the personal AI to help you with whatever you need. Plus, it meets you where you are. Not only is Meta AI now an app, but it's also on the apps you already know and love. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger. Plus the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. It's easy to access wherever you are. So whether you're talking or texting, Meta AI is convenient to use throughout your day. Experience our newest AI that's tailored to you by downloading the Meta AI app. Try the Meta AI app today on the Apple App Store and Google Play.
Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 4 of the 10th Divine Podcast. This show connects fans and players of the Elder Scrolls games to the community at large, and I'm your host, Crown Esso, and I'm here with a bard that I don't think I've heard sing or seen dance, but I do know she plays dress-up, Gwen the Bard, as my fabulous guest. How you doing, Gwen?
Hello. I'm good. How about you?
You know, I'm excited because I got this interview lined up for today, and I got another one lined up for Monday already. So,
that's awesome.
For an interview-based podcast, it's good to have interviews. So I'm feeling pretty positive about that. Is there anything in-game you've gotten up recent to? Wait, that wasn't good English. Is there anything in-game you've gotten up to recently you want to share?
I have a toddler. I understood you. You're fine. Housing contest, the ESO Welcome Home Housing Contest. That is what I've been doing, and I'm actually one of the builds I'm not that proud of, but the other three I'm really proud of. So that's what I've been doing this week. Is I've been decorating a bunch of houses and entering them in the contest.
Yeah, that's cool.
What about you?
I've seen a few people's different entries. I myself am not entering a housing contest. That is not my forte. Although I seem to be on this mini-series within the podcast of focusing on a lot of housing people. And I'm just kind of laughing at myself because the interview I have on Monday is an Xbox housing guy. So, in-game, have I even done anything since I last recorded? I logged in and I updated the message of the day for the Lore Seekers Xbox Guild. That's the only thing I've done since the last time I recorded.
Take 5 minutes and get some honor. It's literally 5 minutes. It's so easy.
Yeah, no, that's. I think that's the only thing. I'm trying to think. Oh no, the last time I recorded, we hadn't finished the Golden Pursuit that got us the house yet. So I did manage to get my house unlocked. And my daughter got hers unlocked with 8 hours to spare in that Golden Pursuit. She doesn't have Tales of Tribute, so that kind of blocked her out of a couple of things. And then one of my guildmates actually spent the crowns and gifted her a crafting station so she could craft in her own house that she had already to get those ones done. I apparently don't have permission to gift anything on Xbox, so I had to ask somebody else to do it for me. I had the crowns, but it wouldn't let me gift anything, so apparently I have to submit a ticket to get told I'm a good boy or something. I'm not really sure.
I struggle with that problem on PC, but I was trying to give stuff to one of my younger sisters. It's just I don't play on often enough to get approved. They get gold. Gold helps too. So yeah.
So, have you had a chance to dig your toes into the Oblivion remake?
I have not. No. It came out at the weirdest time. It's spring. So, spring for me is gardening in convention season, in travel season. So, I'm swamped. I'm swamped. It's probably going to be my winter game. Video games are normally for winter. If it weren't for the wall event, I'd probably hold off on that too. But yeah, I'm going to wait until winter to do that one. I'm really looking forward to it. Have you?
I just touched onto it. In true Oblivion fashion, I finally was like, you know what? I got nothing else to do. Everyone else is in bed. I'm just going to go into the character creation, make my Argonian, and I don't remember there being subtypes to the races in the original. So that was something I found interesting in the character creation, because you can choose like what area your character race came from. So if you pick I forget what the two types were for Argonians, but basically this one's used to running away from slavers. This one grew up free and doesn't know what that's like. So the one who's used to being submitted to the dark elf slave trade has higher athletic skills because they're used to running. Yeah,
that is something else. Like I just played it 2 years ago, and I don't the OG one. I just played that 2 years ago, and I don't remember anything like that in the character creation.
I don't either. So, but yet that's something I hadn't heard anyone else mention in their character creation, and I'm like, so I had to go through like every single race and check out what the two options were for everybody, and there's just like slight little quirks about the races, and it was like for Orc, it was you grew up in a stronghold or you grew up in the Orsinium Mountains, I think were the two options for that one. So if you grew up in a stronghold, you're used to dealing with other people, so you have better speechcraft over the other one. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
What was it for Bosmer? Did you even look? Just out of curiosity.
I did look, and one was for Bosmer. One of the options was having grown up in Reaper's March, and the other one was Grotwood. And I'm trying to think what it was. It was the comment in Reaper's March was just about how you're just so used to war and violence versus the Grotwood one. But I don't remember what the Grotwood one said. So I got through that. Violence. Yeah. I got through that. I got to the main quest line, or this tutorial quest line. I got to the first rat breaking through the wall. And a tutorial pop-up for the quest marker came. And it was like, da-din, and that popped up, and I couldn't get out of it. It was just stuck on the main screen, and I was just sitting there staring at me. I could move in the background. I could move the menus in behind it, but I couldn't get out of the menus because it wanted me to accept the quest pop-up, but I couldn't accept the quest pop-up. It wouldn't accept the input. So I didn't even get out of the tutorial before I broke the game.
Wait, that's the new one?
That's
the new one you broke?
The new one I broke.
That sounds very Morrowind-esque, not Oblivion-esque.
In ESO specifically, so far, because it's been a while since you've been on the show. By the way, if anybody wants to get to know Gwen a little bit better, she was on the show with the Snug Podcast back in Season 1, Episode 14.
That's like 3 years ago.
Yeah. So if you want to get to know Gwen a little bit better, she's part of the Snug Podcast, and she was on a previous episode. But since then, we've had lots of new content. We've had a lot of new things come out. So, like, what's been your favorite chapter release or DLC for ESO?
Since then or in total?
In total.
In total. Oh my gosh, that's a hard question. Let's see. I'm just going to ramble off the ones that I like. So, Elsewhere. I like it for the story, not the map. Blackwood, I like it for the map, not necessarily the story. And then Gold Road was really good. Oh, High Isle. I loved absolutely everything about High Isle. High Isle and Galen, the story, the zone, the woods, Menos. So initially I was like, oh, it's going to be a beach. Because I like foresty places. I love the foresty zones the most, and that was fun. The whole thing.
Besides to do the initial quest for Tales of Tribute, I actually haven't spent any time on Galen. How do you feel about the scribing?
Okay, so we were just talking about our favorite zones. Does the Scholarium count as a zone? That story with Usild and everything, that was great. That was everything about it, going through it, processing through it. They took like this one little like character that's in the background of a Mages Guild quest who just seems like this nagging lady, and so much expansion on that. She is top tier on my list. Everything about scribing the Scalarium is great. However, the actual scribing system, I like how I was cautious about it when they first announced it. I was very cautious about it, especially ink. I was like, oh no, it's a new currency. This is going to suck. This is another new currency, thinking about how everyone's struggling with transmutes and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But how it's all been rolled out and been incorporated is great. I personally haven't messed too much with it. I've gotten a couple of the like extra books and stuff, and I'm working on a few different skills. But I'm waiting until I actually get all of the ink and all of the books before I dive too hardcore into actually messing around with the different build bits myself. But the quest and the zone and how the system seems to function, love it.
That's cool. Yeah, that's another thing I haven't touched at all. I'm like, baby steps. You get caught up eventually, but you know, I had Avron on the show. We talked about Totters and Tales of Tribute.
That's lazy. It's Tales of Tribute. That's lazy. You knew that was going to happen.
I know. I specifically added it to the show notes because your commentary in the Discord about it. Totters? Why would we call it Totters? It sounds like toddlers.
What do you call Battleground players? You call them Battleground players. It's PvP. It's just Tales of Tribute. Totters is lazy.
Do you have any plans with the upcoming update and the subclassing? Is there something you're particularly looking forward to playing around with or mixing up?
I am absolutely looking forward to not stressing about having extra characters anymore. I'm probably going to just stick with my 3 and never stress about making another character ever again. Because I only have 3 that are currently at CP, and I am really looking forward to never having to make another character again, because my main character has every skill line maxed out, has every morph maxed out, and now I get to do that with every other skill that exists. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I haven't gotten clarity on it. You have to have a character at level 50 of the class you want to copy skills from?
You just have to have a character at level 50. It takes longer and it's harder to level up the skills that are not part of your class because you're not proficient in it, and it costs more skill points to use those skills.
Double the points.
Yeah,
but that part everyone's been clear on, but the unlocking
you can
part.
still learn. Yeah, it's one character has to be at level 50, not one of a class. Just one character has to be at level 50, which is nice because that means that you actually have to take the time to learn your own skills before you try something new.
Which makes sense from like an IRL standpoint. I want to make sure I'm good at what I do before I start expanding what I do. But is there any particular, like which skills do you want to mix and match first?
Oh, I want the book beam. I want the book. Pact of Tome, if anyone knows D&D. Pact of Tome Warlock. That's where we're going.
Nice.
Because the beam, from I've heard, heals and does damage. And for my Bosmer, that's great. I also have written it off as that's what she gets from Hermaeus Mora for not telling the whole world that Athalia existed. She gets a fancy book that kills and
that makes
everything
sense.
else I'm not totally sure on. Throwing flaming skulls at people sounds fun. On my Necromancer, I'm already obsessed with the Bone Colossus, but I don't see how that would fit into any of my other builds. So it's the one solid thing I'm looking forward to is the book. Do you have anything you're looking forward to?
Honestly, it just seems like so much more effort. If anything, I might make a character just to play around with things on and leave the rest of my regular characters out of that connection. So alongside 46, they're releasing the API for consoles. So they'll start allowing the newer consoles to get the access to mods. So what mods are you hoping come to console first?
Yeah, I like how you say, what am I hoping for? Because none of them are guaranteed.
No.
That's the fun part. Everyone's like, oh, we're getting add-ons. Are we, though? What's the incentive for the add-on people to decide to do this or add these? What is the incentive here?
To show us love.
So we have the option. We'll have the option of add-ons. We may not hit many. What I'm hoping for is I'm hoping for map pins. Because I want to be able to just grab all of my treasure chests without having to look at the maps 500 times and pull up gaming videos to find them. Because some of them are kind of crazy. Yeah. Right now, the jewelry ones are my favorite. Because, the jewelry surveys and stuff are my favorite. Because you can read it. Reading a thing is a lot easier than trying to find some of those pictures. Yeah, those maps, that is what I'm looking for the most. Everything else. I know people are like, I want a mini map, or I want this, or I want that. And I'm like, no, I don't want to have to open my inventory and pull up a second screen in order to find a treasure map. I want to just find the treasure.
Yes. That's a good one. I agree with that. I know Wheat, who's on the episode show that just released, she mentioned how it'd be nice to have something for when you're running on a dummy, to do the math for you, so you don't have to do the math on the changes that you made and stuff for your parsing.
Oh,
it's something that you can.
That actually would be nice.
Yeah, so you can save this parse and then set it up with the next one.
Yeah, because I don't think of that sort of stuff, but if we had a resource like that, I probably would.
Right. That's I don't end game content, so I don't care about my parse, but
I don't either. For me, for healing, as long as I can keep people alive, I know I'm doing good. That's the thing. I just gotta keep people alive. As long as I'm doing that, nothing else matters.
That's a fair gauge. Okay, I'm not the problem. Yay! Yeah. But of course, being the healer, that means everyone else has to, not stand on stupid.
So my other two co-hosts, they are the best training dummy I have ever had for healing. It's there, and AOA heals over there, and just like a space heal, and I don't even look at where they're I just look at the little health bars on the side of the screen and just go, all right, you get heals. Oh, you need an ulti. We're good.
That's funny. So as far as your journey through content creation and art and everything else, I know you do art. And I saw when I was going through your Instagram that there was a sweet roll that was like rainbow icing. So what happened there?
So we're going to rewind back to, I think it was 2023. It had to have been 2023. So that whole thing, that's a video that I haven't taken down just because it was a pile. First, I initially signed up to help out with the ESO Pride Trevor Project thing that year. And we met our goal. And the goal was that if we called our team Rainbow Sweet Rolls. And so if we made our goal, we were going to make a regular, an IRL giant rainbow sweet roll. Well, that also coincided with me going to the tavern for when we met our goal. So not only am I making this giant rainbow sweet roll, I am making it not in my kitchen, but in my sister's kitchen in Austria, using not the American system. So I have all the ingredients in German and all of her tools, which are not the regular tools that I'm used to using, because they're all metric. And it was a time, and pretty much at the end of it, because we also had to make it so my sister could eat it, because it was just a giant sweet roll. So it was like a vegan. It was a vegan gluten-free sweet roll, pretty much, that we made.
Oh, so that's extra tricky.
It was a rainbow oatmeal thing that I made in a different language. So that's what that was, the rainbow sweet roll.
Nice.
It was for the whole. It was the final reward, that silly stream that we did for the Trevor project for the ESO Pride that year.
Nice. Is there any other food things you've done?
I've made regular sweet rolls. Since then, I'd make a lot of that. Okay, fun fact. If you get those little silicone bundt pans, where it's like 6 little silicone bundt pans.
Yeah.
Those are the exact same size as a muffin cup, and you can turn any muffin recipe into sweet rolls.
Oh, nice.
You can turn any muffin recipe into sweet rolls. It's not that hard.
One of the other things that I kind of saw when I was perusing your Instagram was like you had started doing a project involving the Tales of Tribute cards. What came of that?
Oh, there's actually so that was for the Elder Scrolls. What was it? So October.
Okay.
There was one card. So ultimately, I ended up basically making my own Elder Scrolls Tales of Tribute deck that was all hollow. The prompts, every different color was different prompts for the ESO October that year. And then one of them, even one of the sections, I think it was the Witch Mother's Punch one, actually got featured on the website article for that year. So that made my month. That was fun.
Awesome.
And then I kept adding to the deck. I did make a bunch of coin cards, and one of them that year we did use for Extra Life. So I still have that deck, and everyone who donated that year had their username written on that card. So if I ever make more decks, we can use it, and they exist.
Yeah. Well, I haven't heard any plans for us to get the real ones from the game, so you might as well just keep making them.
Oh yeah, no, I've heard that just isn't existing, so I'm actually looking at better ways of making decks. So I might be obsessed with Tales of Tribute.
Yeah, we just got to get you on board with calling everybody Totters, and then you'll be set.
Oh gosh, So I play on multiple platforms sometimes. Yep. There was one night, this has happened a few times, where Peanut and he's like, "Oh, you're on? We can play Tales of Tribute?" Because Peanut and I love playing Tales of Tribute against each other. And I love playing against Peanut because I actually have to think. Don't tell him I said that. But I actually have to think what I would go against him in Tales of Tribute. So I'll be playing on PlayStation, just doing a random, and then I'll be also going against Peanut. And he's like, "Are you dual screening Tales of Tribute right now?"
Yeah.
Yes. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm getting my dailies done at the same time.
Nice. I can't say I'm at that level yet, but it is fun. I did put a lot of, because I did it for the Golden Pursuit there last month. So I made a point of trying out different things. I'm going to have to spend some time unlocking some more of the decks. Actually, it was entertaining. It was like very few people that I played against last month actually had other decks. So when I did get to go against one with one of the other decks, it was like, ooh, how does this one work? And it was quite fun.
Yeah, Tales of Tribute is probably my favorite part of the game. It was the biggest part of my streaming and content creation back when I did that frequently. Right now, IRL is IRL, so I haven't been doing that. I haven't been streaming for at least over a year now. It's probably been longer. But we had Insomnia Club, where I'd wake up every morning at 4 a.m. because I had to give my cat his insulin. So I had to feed him, give him his insulin, and then we would play Tales of Tribute for 2 hours, and I'd stream and play Tales of Tribute for 2 hours to make sure he didn't have any problems during those 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I'd let everyone choose my decks, and we'd do tutorials, and we'd work our way through it. And that, I think, just taking the time to play the decks I was most uncomfortable with is how I ended up learning the game better.
Yeah, for sure. Very much reminiscent of how I learned to play Magic the Gathering. Pain and suffering. But because I worked night shift for the last 2 years, I actually caught some of your streams because it was while I was sitting at the end of the day in the work truck and be like, oh, I can watch that. It's on my phone. IRL for the last 2 years has been me working night shift and not being able to do much for content creation. So I'm appreciating my time off right now and being able to put more effort into getting the podcast up and going. It's been really nice.
Another thing that I've been working on, wrapping back to that content creation, was another thing I did was I have a bunch of drawings that I do, and signatures from voice actors that I still haven't finished. I bring my sketchbook everywhere. If anyone ever meets me IRL, they know in my bag, I've been carrying the same bag since like 2018. There's a sketchbook in there, and and every event when there's like voice actors, I have them sign that sketchbook, just putting something your character would say. And the only one I've actually finished was the one that Wes Johnson signed for Hermaeus Mort.
Nice.
That's the only one I finished. But because of that IRL, they've kind of been put on the back burner. But finish that eventually.
Yeah.
Very nice for people to trust that like they can just sign something with like a silly quote and it's not going to be anything crazy. I really appreciate that they trust me. Just like, okay, do you have any they don't ask like if I have any examples or anything. They just put down a silly quote and sign it, and they just trust that it's not going to be anything crazy. It's like that's nice of them. Well,
that's good. That speaks to the vibes you give off. It's not, nobody's worried about you being like crazy. So that's, your co-host takes care of that. So you're good.
She does, yeah.
So one of the main focuses I wanted to talk to you about today was your cosplay, and like, how did you get into doing cosplay in the first place?
This is going to be the longest part of the show. We've already been talking for a while now, and now you're just going to double the length of time. So
I have editing software. I'm good.
Okay. So I wanted to be Jessie from Team Rocket for Halloween when I was like 6 or 7 years old.
Okay.
And my grandma tossed some tissue paper and chalk at me and said, "Figure it out." So that's how I got into pattern making, and it just kind of kept going from there. That is literally how I started getting into cosplay. It's like, figure it out, and just start going from there.
Make your own Halloween costume.
Yep. That we're not going to count that costume. We're going to say I officially probably started cosplaying like junior or senior year of high school. Well, it's always a growing thing. It's always a learning thing. I'm constantly learning more stuff. I'll look back at all of my old outfits and go, well, that's a pile. Why did I use that fabric? Hot glue in that heat? What was I thinking?
That's awesome. I've seen what people can do, and I've seen your work with your Abner Thon, and I know you've been struggling with the Stuga for a while now, trying to get her stuff all put together.
This is the longest I've ever... Okay, so when I'm doing a cosplay, I treat it like it is still the early 2010s, and it's the weekend before a convention. It doesn't matter if I have a year. I normally just treat it like it's the 2010s and it's the weekend before a convention. And you're just like making a thing from scratch. It's like, all right, now we got a costume. With Stuga, I've been trying to be a little better about that. It's actually been probably over a year since she's been conceptualized.
Yeah.
And about 9 months. I think I started actually sewing her back in August. But what happened, the reason why I even started Stuga, was in Amsterdam, Nine-Tailed Fox and I were talking. He's like, maybe we should do Stuga. Someone should do Stuga and then run around and like chase people. That's actually a great idea.
Yeah.
Everyone should be Stuga. He's like, yeah, everyone should be Stuga. I'm like, all right, well, I'll pattern it out. We'll see where it goes. And I thought that was it. That was the end of it. That was the end of the conversation. That was the end of it. But I get back to the States, and I'm like, I need to upgrade Tharn's fabric. This is he needs better fabric. He needs better quality fabric than this under his armor. No. So I go to my favorite fabric warehouse, and I'm looking around trying to find Tharn fabric, and I go, I see it. I see this crazy pink suede, and next to it is like this perfect pink wool thing that you would definitely see in Rothgar. I'm like, oh, I'm really gonna do this, aren't I? And so yeah, I got the fabric, and I held on to it for a few months, and I started Stuga, I think back in September. It's June now. She's almost done. She's wearable. It's just adding. When I make a cosplay, I look at it like, all right, so first we have make it wearable, and then we have make it knockoff quality, like something you'd buy off of Wish or an extra or like a cosplay website. And then we have make it decent, and then we have competition quality. There's stages you go through. So it's so the first two stages are the back in the day, I'm going to treat it like it's the early 2010s costume rushing stages.
Yeah.
And then make it better.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
I like that.
We're on the make it better stage. So
Nice.
she's wearable. I can take her someplace. I can throw her in a bag, get there, get off a plane, have all the makeup done, and wear it within like 15 minutes. And then have the bag and the makeup in the pocket. She has deep pockets. It's awesome. She is designed to be be able to just travel across country quickly. So she can do that. But now it's just like sewing in all like the little, because if you look at Stuga, she has all these little, like on the neckline, there's like different embroidery and all these other little things going on that we're adding.
Okay.
With EA Sports College Football 26, you can rise from high school recruit to Heisman legend or cement your legacy as a coach by leading your program to glory. Pre-order the deluxe edition of the game today as part of the MVP bundle at go.ea.com/MVP-bundle to start playing 3 days early and more. EA Sports College Football 26 is rated E for everyone. Includes in-game purchases, including random items.
So, folks, this is the part of the show where I get to remind you that we are part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club. And you can find our show, as well as many other shows, like Two Girls, One Ship, or Overtuned, by checking the directory at robotsradio.net. And, of course, if you're looking for more MMO-focused podcasts, you can hang out with our friends over at bonusroll.gg/directory. And you can find ones like Experimental Card, which is an Overwatch podcast, or Unshackled Fury, which is an uncensored, just heads up, WoW podcast. And they are going on a summer break. Their most recent episode does mention that, but that'll give you time to catch up if you've never listened to their show. So head on over there and chit-chat with them if you'd like to, and listen to their shows. A quick update for Extra Life. I will have the links in the show notes going forward every week, but we're actually sitting at $484, but I think that's just a fluctuation from the previous show because everything in my donations are in Canadian funds, so it kind of bounces around a little bit. But nonetheless, it is still up from last show, and so that's a good thing.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
On with the show. So, how do you get, like, is there a particular process for you as far as, like, getting your materials or how you go about making different aspects of your costumes?
Lately, how it's evolved to, I have a list of costumes I want to make and a list of things that I want to do. And so then I have, like, forever pretty much a log of like different fabric types and things that I'll need in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm out and I see those, I get them. So I'll have like a pile of fabric. Like a friend of mine wants to cosplay the Investigator Veil author. So I'm going to help her make it. And so I have that fabric laying around because I found it. I ran across it, so I have it. But I haven't started patterning it or anything. So it's one of those, have a list of what you need, then pattern, and then start the creation process.
Hmm. For your armor pieces and stuff, how do you go about putting those together?
It's same thing as regular patterning, but with just armor instead of fabric. Take it, measure, figure out what measurement you need, make the cutout, and then I'll make like a paper pattern. Generally tissue paper. That's what my grandma used to use. So that's what I use. Mm-hmm. Like tissue paper and newspaper, and if I need to see through it, tissue paper. If not, recycling newspaper is always great. But use those, make the pattern, and then mirror it, and then draw all of the different parts on it, cut those out, and then trace it onto the foam, and then cut out the foam, and do all the beveling, and all of the adding, and the gluing, and sewing if I can. Generally, sewing is the best way to keep anything on, and then adding glue and layers, and sealing, and then the painting, and then sealing the paint, and then, yeah.
But so foam for your armor to give it its structure and make it stand and whatever, but also be lightweight.
Yes, and also like there'll be like the base layer, and then I'll sew in, like if there's straps on the armor, I'll sew in the straps, and then I'll put another layer over that, and then we'll start putting on the details. That way the straps are sturdy and they stay on the armor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense to me. So when you've been going through this lifelong experience of yours, is there any particular methods you've gone for learning, or has it just been trial and error, or has YouTube been your best friend? Or
oh my gosh, I didn't even know YouTube if I knew YouTube tutorials existed back in the day, this would have been so much easier. No, it has all been trial and error. The day I learned that people actually make things from patterns they buy in the store, my mind was blown. I'm like, what? People buy patterns? You mean not everyone just knows how to make clothes? What? I thought everyone just knew how to make clothes. Just because of the initial experience I told you with having to do my own thing back in the day. I just assumed everyone knew how to do this. What?
My mom, I want to say it was like, she did like a parent, like how to be a mom course when I was born, or around the time I was born. So I have a ceramic elephant that used to be part of a lamp, and a piggy bank that she did all up and she fired and whatever, because this is part of that course. It was like an arts and craft course for moms. And then I have an outfit that she made, and it's a button-up shirt and shorts in this like cartoonish suns on blue sky everywhere pattern. It's the only piece of clothing my mother has ever made, and it has survived me and 3 boys of mine. My youngest right now has probably worn it the most out of my boys. The other boys like grew into it and grew out of it very quickly, whereas this one has been wearing it since he was like he's going to be 3 this year. So he would have been a year old probably the first time he wore it, because he grew into it very quickly, but he's been pretty steady around the same height from 1 to 3. So he's still in it. And I have very minimal understanding cosplay besides just to goggle at photos and be like, ooh, that must have taken time. So are there different types of cosplay, or is it all just cosplay?
No. That's because you don't know besides just looking at photos. That is so much more of a loaded question than you know.
I like it. Let's break it down.
But yeah, we'll break it down. So cosplay is just cosplay. Let's look at it from a competition perspective. That's the easiest way, because there's categories. So there's this thing called the International Costumers Guild, and they are the standard in cosplay competitions.
Really? That's yes. Awesome. That in of itself is amazing.
They've been around since the 80s, and not a lot of people actually know about them, even though if you're not in costuming, most people don't actually know about them. But if you are really into costuming, you probably know it exists. Or if you're trying to run a cosplay competition or something, you should know it exists. You might not know it exists, but you probably should know it exists, because it will help you structure your competition much, much better. It's broken down into different categories, so that way everyone has fair competition. However, it is also a good way to help categorize costumes. So you have what is called closet cosplay, like a Pokemon trainer or something that you would wear, like you could see on the street. Or even if you're just like taking a t-shirt and some jeans and a wig that you didn't style, that's a closet cosplay, because you didn't actually make anything. It's things you pulled out of your closet, right? Okay. And then you have beginners. And beginners are generally pretty basic. You have made probably more than 50% of your costume, at least 25% generally is required. And so that's where you're like, if you're making your special hats or your wing props or like some sort of suit of armor over basic clothes, that would all be really beginner. And then there's intermediate, where you're actually expected to know something about sewing. That's generally where I sit. I'm generally intermediate because now in my cosplay journey, I know how to do things. I don't know the terms because I wasn't taught properly. So I'm learning a lot of terms because you have to be able to speak about your work. You actually have to be able to say how you did it or what you did it. And you need to know the names for the different stitches you're doing. Just because you know how to do it doesn't mean you know it, right?
I've met people in the trades that's the same thing. They know how to do the job. They don't know what you're talking about, though, if you speak it in the technical terms because they were self-taught or they were taught by a person who was self-taught and they never got taught what the terms were because the person who taught them didn't know what the terms were. They just knew how to do the work. Yep.
So that's about that. That's where I'm at, and that's intermediate. Where what you're making is clearly structured. It's clear. It's clearly clean. You know what you're supposed to add to it, but it's not necessarily at that next level, which is masters. Now, masters is people who generally like these masters is probably what you mostly see on Instagram. These are the people who market themselves, show off, like have an actual booth with photos and stuff at conventions, maybe sell their props or costuming or patterns or sewing skills on the side as well. These are people who have won multiple competitions and actually know what they're doing.
Yeah.
However, anyone can enter Masters. You could be a beginner and enter Masters. There is no there is no standard minimum. But once you're in, you're stuck. But that is pretty much what the level that's expected there.
Okay. Yeah. So the closest I have to like experience with that would be the years of Extra Life United, which were done online during the pandemic. We had a person win because they had 2 tiers for the cosplay that year. They had like a beginners and a professional one, and we had people win like first and third place in one category and first place in another category for that. And we ended up bringing home from that competition like a total of $21,000 for our hospital.
That's awesome.
It was great. But yeah, besides that little bit of cosplay and like, upvoting their stuff on Reddit, because it was like the online version. That's the most I've seen of like, it can be this tier or that tier. That's the most like I've seen before. But this is interesting to me that there's like a guild for it, because like it's not a term you really hear in modern speech outside of video games. Right?
Yeah,
so
it's costume.org, but they are the International Costumers Guild.
That's awesome. I really like that. Besides Tharn and the upcoming Stuga, what you did...
Yes, I did do Lyris back in the day.
Yes, that one. I was like, what's her name? They're like, Lady with an Axe. But that was not...
That was 4 years ago. And oh my god, how many times people thought I was Aster from How to Train Your Dragon because no one knew what Elder Scrolls was at the convention I went to.
Nice. That's fair. That's a fair assessment, actually.
It was. We just moved to a new town, me and one of my friends. She's like, well, there's a convention. You should go. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll make new friends. I'll cosplay someone from this game I really like. And so that way, if people recognize it, I could like try to make friends.
Yeah.
Oh, did not work. Did not work at all.
That's awesome. I think you even mentioned that you're getting Stuga ready for your next little trip over to Amsterdam, right?
My next trip is to Germany, but Abnatharn was born in Amsterdam, yeah.
Oh, yeah. What I'm really curious is, when you were there in Amsterdam, you partook in the cosplay thing that they were doing at the event. So why don't you go ahead and like tell us what that was like? How was that experience?
That was an absolute blast. So I took some I wrote down some notes for this part specifically, so that way I don't forget all of the things, because there was just so much in such a limited amount of time. There was first you had to apply. You had to send in there was a little submission form that you had to send in. But so I entered the form, and then I crossed my fingers, held my breath, and for a while was just like, because they're not saying that if there's going to be divisions for this cosplay contest. So for me, because we've been talking about cosplay in the tiers, and this is a themed thing for a video game. I've watched a couple. I really started watching cosplay competition videos after entering this, after learning that I got accepted, because Bethesda specifically has held cosplay competitions before. Elder Scrolls Online has not. This was their first one, and
I didn't realize that.
This was their first one. For specifically Elder Scrolls Online.
Okay.
The first one their team has put on, right? And so, but because Bethesda's put them on before and everything, my brain just immediately goes, this is a theme thing for a video game. This is going to be like masterclass. This is pretty much everyone, and especially since they're not saying divisions, everyone's going to be on the same tier. But then I got the email that I was accepted, and I was really excited. So, there was a lot of emails back and forth with Jess. She'd send emails like, what did we want for our music for while we're on stage? And it had to be something from an Elder Scrolls game.
Cool.
Not necessarily ESO, but from an Elder Scrolls game. So that way they didn't have to get rights to the music, right? Yeah. And so I think I actually chose like one of the Clockwork City soundtracks, because just
good choice.
I wanted to initially do Elsewhere, right? Because I was wearing Tharn's Elsewhere garb. It didn't have enough punch for what I wanted for timing getting on stage. So I
be on the catwalk. You gotta feel the catwalk.
We had to tell who our assistant was. Basically, my little sister ended up being Abner Tharn's squire for the second day, because she was helping me put on my armor and making sure I was where I needed to be. So the costume was mostly done. This belt piece, not the belty belt part, like the belt buckle portion. I forgot in the US. Flew over without it. I completely forgot it.
Oh goodness.
So I know. So it was done, but it wasn't done. We were in Amsterdam for my sister and I were using the GPS, and we're going around, and we are exploring Amsterdam. We got to found an outdoor market, which was really cool. They had some very interesting items because we needed to find fabric. And so fun facts about Amsterdam, you don't have a Walmart.
No,
they don't have a Walmart or a Hobby Lobby or any other or a Joann Fabric. But ultimately, we ended up finding a fabric shop. So I found the fabric I needed that matched the fabric I had, and ended up just kind of...
That's pretty good.
Taking some of my extra foam that I packed with and just my paint, and just redid the entire belt buckle the day before the convention.
That stands as a testament to your skill set. I'm just going to throw it out there. But the fact that you managed to just pull it all together the night before, that stands to your skills.
So then day one, we knew what to expect. For day one, we had to meet up before all of the actual programming started for a run-through. So we met up by the main stage with Jess, and she showed us around. She made sure we had our cosplayer badges, which were different from the regular badges, so we could go backstage and everything with no problems.
So, like media, but slightly off.
Slightly different. We got to walk across the stage, figure out any final lighting. All of my lighting ideas were shot down. The Sugar Factory people, or whoever was doing lighting, no, you can't do that. Comes back, okay, Jess, how about we just do this? Comes back to me later. Actually, they said that's a safety hazard. Okay, comes back to me later. They can't do that either. Well, I guess could we try this? And that's stuck. So yeah.
I think that's actually something that I wouldn't have considered being part of the planning process for anything. Would be your lighting, and like having options for lighting when you're showing off your costume. I think that's really neat. It makes sense, both from a photography standpoint, a videography standpoint, but also for highlighting your outfit the right way. But like at an event, it's not something I would consider so much as like when you're taking photos or video of what you've done. So I think it's really neat.
It's a really big part, especially for major competitions when you have different cues and things. Normally, you can even different stage props are also like counted in as part of your cosplay that you can make, and then some of them you upload and decide on what a background, whether it's music or a photo, along with different lighting, and then cueing it to music. There's normally a lot that go into the larger competitions. And those are typically what is in, if you watch a Bethesda cosplay competition video, are different things that happen. And so I'm looking at all these videos, and that's what I was expecting. But then we get to the sugar factory, it's like, no. No.
We are more limited in our ability.
Yes, and then this is when I am learning that they haven't had a competition before, which I knew. I knew this was their first one. But this is their first one, and they're not communicating with like other Bethesda teams that have put on these competitions before.
Oh, running her buck wild.
They're just doing it. And because of this experience is why I always point out the International Costumers Guild and just like hammer that in. So that way people know that there is a resource out there. The other thing that I did not expect was judging on stage. That never happens.
Okay.
It's generally like a no-no. Judging is scary. Being judged is scary. Especially for newer cosplayers, that's really scary. You're talking about your work. You're being looked at by a bunch of people, even just in a small room. That's really scary for a lot of people. So normally it's a private thing.
Yeah, I actually would tell me more about that. Like when you do the judging privately, like is that like literally like you're in a small room with a group of people and they stare at you like a mannequin, or?
Yes. Actually, with an elevator pitch involved normally. So you're given, the standard is you're given 2 minutes in a room with the judges. Sometimes you're required to have a build book, sometimes you're not, and even some competitions it is frowned upon. And I know that's really weird, but it's still a thing. And you're in there, you literally are talking this fast. You just have to talk super fast. So normally when I talk about cosplay, you'll hear me talk really fast sometimes. If I'm talking too fast, they'll tell me to slow down. Because when you are in judging, you're only given 2 minutes. Explain your wig, your creations, your props, what you've sewn, the different stitching, the character, comparing it to your reference photos. You're only given 2 minutes for the judges to ask questions, for all of it to be done. That's it. In a small room with generally the average is like three judges. Mm-hmm. And that's normally how it goes. You're normally not on a televised stage with a couple people asking questions, just being told to ramble about your costume. That normally never happens.
Yeah. So
never
lots
happens.
of firsts for both the team doing the event and for yourself is what I'm hearing.
Yes. However, my end impression, I loved it. I absolutely loved how they did it. Like, they did it without the book. I loved it. Once I realized when I was being asked questions and stuff on stage and talking to people, I'm like, this is great! Because that was less, for me, that was less scary. For people who were coming in, who normally, or let's say this was your first cosplay competition, that was probably absolutely terrifying. And they had a good mix of judges. I was curious how they were going to do the judges, if it was going to be like you can see who the judges were. They did actually have cosplayers. They had a couple of the dev team. And it was a good mix. I liked it. That was a good way to do it. But then we'd go back behind the stage afterwards, and you're sitting there, and you have all the judges come in, and they're talking to each person individually and asking them some questions and stuff, and you have you can tell everyone's different skill level when you've been crafting for a while, and you'll have like Rich, who's like actually just sitting down and talking, like focusing on like the newer cosplayers and just asking them different questions about their cosplay and stuff. And I really like that touch. I noticed that. That was nice. And then there's other people some people just kind of look over it and don't really ask a lot of questions. Because it just depends how well you covered everything. Or if you were stage fright or you just kind of go through it, right? And I didn't watch anyone else's stage performance because I did my stage. We were ushered in. We're waiting. You're on stage, and then you're off stage, and then you're behind the stage. That's normal. That's normally how that works. You normally don't get to see anyone else's stage performance unless you watch a video later. And yeah, no, that is probably the least scariest cosplay competition I've ever been in. But that's one cool thing I can definitely say that is also that they have done that is not standard was their green room. Their green room was gorgeous. The green room is the room that you call where the cosplayers like wait or have to wait for the show or have to like and normally you can like touch up makeup there or something, or if you have to fix something, like that's where you do it. But normally there isn't like a lot what they did. That normally isn't a thing. But now what they did, there's changing rooms. Everyone has their own table. The table's already equipped with a couple mirrors and lights, and everyone
snazzy.
I've never seen that done before. That's great. Now, I know they've done it before because the Bethesda DE team, they will do that whenever they're doing like cosplay shoots and stuff.
Yeah.
So they've done that before. Kai is their community manager. He's really good to cosplayers. So that was cool. Experiencing I'm going to call it spoiled. We were spoiled.
Sometimes it's good to be spoiled.
We were spoiled. That was nice. So not without the mess ups, because there's always technology problems, right? It's not a live event if there isn't a couple technology problems. There was a voting system for the community vote. You just go on the site and you click a thing or whatever. I have no idea how it works. I didn't look at it. I didn't have my cell phone on me all day. My sister had my cell phone. I did not have my cell phone on me all day because I had on these like weird gauntlet gloves with the rings. By the way, warning, if you put foam in a suitcase and you put that suitcase in a checked bag and you put that checked bag in an airplane, the pressure of the airplane can change the sizing of the foam. Fun facts.
Oh.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
I'm grateful I always carry an emergency kit. But yeah, so I have all of my rings and stuff and my gloves, and I didn't have a cell phone on all day, so I did not know this technology problem. Technology problem. Apparently, you could see how many people were voting for each contestant. And so
it turned into Canadian political voting, where you start voting just for who you like least instead of who you want the most.
It kind of was like that. It kind of feels like that because, like, so of course you know, like the star effect, the Star Billy Sneetch effect. You know, you see someone vote for something, and you want to vote for it too, right? But apparently, at some point, that was course corrected, and then you couldn't see it anymore, and then you just kind of like blind voted after that. And I asked my sister at one point, like, oh, Liz, where is it in the polls? Do you want to see it? Like, no, Gwen, you don't want to see. Well, I want to see. I never saw it. I still have no idea. I don't care. I had a blast anyway. But I knew I was never going to win because of the timeline I put into the costume, right? But, like, especially when I was competing against, like, these people who've had these costumes and been wearing them events for years. And, like, when you're competing against friends, you don't really feel like you're losing.
Yeah.
But still. So Liz, I made 2 costumes for this competition, by the way. Not for the competition, but for the event. My sister was dressed as Athelia all day, so Athelia was Tharn Squire.
Nice.
She had fun.
That's good.
She had no idea who Athelia was or anything. This is, like, just before it was even released, right? Onto console, so we don't really know about it. She's like, well, if anyone asks, I don't know who I am. And I'm like, perfect, right in character. She does. It was fun.
Yeah, that's perfect.
It was like perfect in character. You love it, Liz. Good job.
So how long of a day was that, all in all?
Oh my gosh, let's see. I started doing my makeup at so I was nervous. So I couldn't sleep. So then finally, 5 a.m. I think was when my alarm went off. And did all the makeup. So 5 a.m. until it was dark outside or something. When did the convention end? I don't know when it ended. I don't remember when it ended. But
it was the same day.
It was still the same day. Yep, it was still the same day. So it was a lot of hours. It was a lot of hours. And then we finally went out to dinner with friends.
So do you have any other highlights or lowlights from the event that you wanted to touch base on? Or does that kind of sum up the whole experience?
I think that actually sums it up. Because, let's see. We had... for the cosplay, that sums it up. But the event itself, day one, was a disaster. I know that sounds horrible, but we actually arrived early. So we were on time, we were in line, we were early in line, we were early inside. We got to sign up for all of the things, which we were lucky we got to sign up for all of the things, because apparently there were a lot of people didn't get to sign up just because there were only so many time slots for different stuff, and it was all done electronically. So if you were there from somewhere where you didn't use cell phone or whatever, you were screwed. So there was a lot of hiccups with all that nonsense.
To be fair, the European cell phone system is way different than North America's. With this year's event, what are you hoping to see, either the same or different?
Well, this year's event is just going to be a German tavern. I say just going to be a German tavern, but I didn't go to last year's tavern simply because, one, life. Two, I was already in Amsterdam. And getting to Europe is expensive. Once you're in Europe, it's not that bad. But that event was in April. Taverns always in July. So this year, I am expecting that it is going to be an absolutely fun time on Castle Grounds, where you're camping, which is always fun. The last tavern I went to, the camping in Europe is so much nicer than camping in the U.S. I'm expecting there to be similar things like at the previous taverns, just round tables where you get to talk to the devs. I'm expecting cake. I would be confused if there wasn't cake.
Do you expect it to look like Chef Donald's son's cake, or just something different?
I don't know. They do weird things. One year, the tavern I went to, the last one I went to was when Necron came out. And so that cake was you remember the little Hermaeus Mora statue they released in the Bethesda? It looked like that.
That's cool.
I know what I think it's gonna be shaped like. It's gonna be shaped like one of those things that traps and sucks souls. That's totally what it's gonna be shaped like. Calling it now. Yep.
The new things from the new island chapter.
Yep. That's what's gonna be shaped like. Calling it that's my guess. I'm probably right. And then
suffering and. It sucks, suffering, and dismay, or something out of you.
I literally just said, don't take a piece with fondant. I don't care how cool it is, but I'm totally going to take a skull.
No, that's fair.
So, expecting cake, expecting round tables, expecting live music, and expecting to look for a bunch of people who are going to be absolutely confused that I'm Stuga because I haven't told everyone, and not everyone listens to everything. So it's going to be really fun when I run up to them and go, do you know how long I've been working for you?
Just for the punchline alone, that's the best option as far as a cosplay for going to an event like this, because it fits both the reality, because you're going to spend time to look for anybody you're looking for, but also fits the character exactly. So it's perfect. I love that.
But yeah, no, those are the things I'm expecting. Everything else will just be a fun surprise.
What other cosplays have you done besides the Elder Scrolls ones that are some of your favorites?
Okay, I like the favorites thing. I will tell you the bad ones too, but because it looks like those will probably come up. So we'll just say the names. So I did May from Pokemon, Alessa from Pokemon. Did the teacher from Full Metal Alchemist, Mavis, the Harley Quinn from Suicide Squad, Major from Ghost in the Shell.
Nice.
And Raven from Teen Titans. old school version of Poison Ivy, and then the Arkham Asylum version of Poison Ivy, and then Ida from the Owl House.
Ooh, I think it's the first one I'm not familiar with out of the ones you've listed.
That's one I did for Extra Life. And then Spider-Gwen. There was one year I was just all Gwens because of my friend's kid that came with us to the convention. That was fun. Nice. Let me think. Yeah, that's enough of them. That's a good list.
So are there any other tips or tricks or suggestions you might have for someone who is just thinking about, or maybe has minimal experience but wants to get better with their cosplay efforts?
Use the internet. Back then, I didn't have access to consistent internet when I started cosplay. The internet still barely existed. I know that's silly saying that in like the early 2010s and stuff, but not everyone had internet still. We didn't have tutorials. There wasn't any of those cosplay tutorials. TikTok didn't exist, okay?
Yeah.
Use the internet. If you actually type in your character or what you want to do, you're going to find the right way to do it the first time, so you don't have to do all the wrong ways.
Yeah.
So do that. And then if you have no idea how to do a pattern, that's fine. You don't have to make your own patterns. You go to the Simplicity site, okay? Even if you don't want one of their patterns, you go to their site, okay? Because this will give you an idea to start. And you look through all of their patterns and you find what matches your character. You can find just find these patterns and splice it together. Sometimes you might have to add in a little extra trim or detailing or paint, but that will give you a place to start.
All right. So the for funsies questions. You get a new set of questions. You were my first guest to see these questions. So Gwen, which zone in ESO is the furthest from home for you?
All right. So first you have to describe what home is for me there. Is it which home is my home base in ESO, or what feels the furthest from home?
If you think of this zone is my home in ESO, which zone is the furthest from that?
All of them and none of them, because my Bosmer is a hermit.
So which one would you say you could never possibly live in?
Deadlands. Like, hate the Deadlands. Could never do it. No, too much fire. Too much red. Not enough trees.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Which NPC is your favorite in any game? Doesn't have to be SEO.
So since it is just games, it is Elder Scrolls. So I'm going to start with I thought about this question, and I'm going to start with a ramble list so everyone doesn't think I'm actually crazy when we get to the actual favorite character. So Lucille, Bastion, Azandar, and then Hyacinth, and then Lady Arabelle. Lady Arabelle's great. Love Lady Arabelle.
Lady Arabelle is quite entertaining.
Arn, of course. So then my favorite characters, my actual two favorite characters, so I had to go through that list so you know I have a range. I love all these characters. They're all great. It always boils back to those two, because those are the two characters that got me absolutely hooked on the Elder Scrolls series in the first place and made me want to keep playing games. So it's always going to be Sheogorath and Cicero.
The Sheogorath from Skyrim.
Yes, and Oblivion. The first time I played Oblivion was back on Xbox, right? Mm-hmm. And I never played Oblivion, because I only played in the Shivering Isles.
If you could bring an outfit, costume, and armor from Nirn to Earth, which one would you?
From Nirn to Earth. Or Nirn from Earth. Oh, I'm changing my answer. I am changing my answer for the first one. Ring of the Wild Hunt. We actually literally talked about this earlier in the week. Yeah, no. See, I read armor and then I read item, and I'm like, okay, two different things. That's fine. Nope. Yeah, no. First answer, Ring of the Wild Hunt. Hands down.
So if you could take a clothing item from Earth and go back the other way.
Bring my pillow. I'd probably bring my favorite pillow or my favorite bag.
That's fair, because that is something
I'm so used to grabbing things out of all of the right pockets. It's weird when you don't have it.
Yes.
Bring the bag I'm used to.
Yeah. That's fair.
And then get the endless portal spell thing put on it so I can carry like 600,000 soul gems and dragon bones and not even think about it.
If you were turned into a pie, probably by Shiro, what type of pie would you be?
Oh, well, if Sheogorath turned me into a pie, we know it's going to be a cheese pie. Because Sheogorath did it, so it's going to be a cheese pie. Why wouldn't it be a cheese pie? He loves cheese.
I don't think I've ever seen a cheese pie. There's just a cheese wheel with crust on it.
I mean, picture like an Uncrustable, like a little personal pan pie, like an Uncrustable, but it's a grilled cheese.
Okay, yeah. So you turned into a cheese pie. So what is your favorite time of day?
From like 11 p.m. to 5 a.m.
And the cresting of the new day.
From 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. It's always when I'm the most productive. Don't know why, just am. So, yep.
Just
that's
naturally
it.
Night owl.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's fair. Jumping jacks or crunches? If you had to pick one exercise to do every day for the rest of your life, which one would you pick?
That is the easiest question anyone's ever asked me.
Well, that's good. Jumping jacks?
Yeah, no. I had a C-section 4 years ago. I'm going to choose jumping jacks. I had hep keto, and I was still doing hep keto even after that, and all of the core exercises sucked.
So the last funsy question I have for you is, what is your best dad joke?
Okay, so I know it's the best one because my daughter always laughs. What do you call a pile of kittens? A pile of kittens. You call it a meowtin'. Now, what do you call it when the kittens scatter? A meowvalanche.
That's good. I like that. Meowvalanche. Oh, that's good. All right. So, Gwen, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell my listeners where they can find you across the internet?
All right. You can find me pretty much everywhere. I am everywhere. However, if you act by me, you can find me at Gwenthebard on Instagram or on a Snug podcast with my other co-hosts.
Perfect. So, thanks everyone for tuning into the show. Please don't turn into my show. I don't know how that would work out for you. It'd be kind of like a wild hunt situation. Not good. If you've enjoyed it, please let other people know about the show, share it, and give it a review on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Rating and reviewing the show will help other people find it and will help us grow our community, which then helps me convince more people to come onto the show to do the interviews. You can also give us a review over at the Bonus Roll podcast directory. If you go to bonusroll.gg/directory, you can find us there. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can find us on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, or email us at 10thdivinepodcast@gmail.com. And everywhere it's 10th Divine Podcast. You can find me, myself, and I at Crown Esso, which is ESS and the number 0, in all those same places and on Twitch. And if you'd like to support the show right now, you can go to ko-fi.com/thepiercefamily, PEARCE, to spell that one. And we will be back in a fortnight with another lovely chat about Elder Scrolls. Tot scenes!